Chapter 1. The Secret Behind the Silence. Do you think he'll ever discover the truth, Mom? The young woman's voice trembled as she stood in the kitchen doorway, twisting her fingers together. Fear rested heavily in her eyes. Her mother paused before answering. She lowered the heat beneath the pot on the stove and glanced toward the hallway. "Keep your voice down," she whispered. "This house carries every sound." The daughter swallowed hard. "Sometimes when he looks at me, he reminds me of Dad, not because he's cruel, but because he's so quiet. That's what scares me the most." Her mother closed her eyes for a brief moment. "I've spent years hoping you'd never have to live through what I did. But what if history repeats itself?" "It won't," her mother replied, though the uncertainty in her voice betrayed her confidence. After a long silence, she spoke again. "Everything is ready, just like we planned last year. If the day ever comes, you'll know exactly what to do." Outside the kitchen, only a few feet away, a man stood frozen in the hallway. He hadn't meant to overhear anything. He had simply come inside carrying a dessert for Sunday dinner. Now every word echoed inside his mind like a warning. He didn't interrupt. He didn't confront them. He quietly stepped back before either woman realized he had been there. In that single moment, 14 years of marriage suddenly felt unfamiliar. "My name is Quincy Thompson. I'm 42 years old, and for most of my life, I believed strength meant carrying every burden without asking anyone else to help. Military service taught me discipline. Years in private security taught me awareness. Marriage taught me sacrifice. Or at least, I believed it had. For 14 years, I tried to become the husband every family deserves. I worked long hours. I accepted dangerous assignments. I missed birthdays, holidays, and weekends because I believed providing security for the people I love mattered more than anything else. Whenever life became difficult, I handled it quietly. If I was exhausted, I stayed silent. If memories from overseas kept me awake, I stayed silent. If anxiety followed me home after work, I stayed silent. Some people call that strength. Today, I know it can also become loneliness. There were nights when my wife, Jamila, slept peacefully beside me while I stared at the ceiling until sunrise, replaying memories I never had the courage to describe. Not explosions, not violence, the silence before disaster. The feeling that something was wrong seconds before anyone else noticed. Those memories never completely disappeared. I convinced myself hiding them was another way of protecting my family. Looking back, I wasn't protecting anyone. I was simply building walls no one knew existed. Everything changed on an ordinary Tuesday in late September. Chicago had begun preparing for autumn. The air coming off Lake Michigan carried the first warning that summer was ending. After closing the biggest business contract of my career, I drove home feeling something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief. The agreement sitting inside my briefcase would secure my company for 2 years. Professionally, life couldn't have looked better. Personally, I had no idea my world was already beginning to collapse. When I opened the front door, the house greeted me with silence. Not peaceful silence. Empty silence. The kitchen lights were on. A sandwich waited on the counter, carefully wrapped. Beside it rested a handwritten note. Only 4 words. "Don't wait up." I read them twice. Jamila normally added tiny personal touches to every note she wrote. A smile, a heart, even a simple "love you." This note contained nothing except those 4 words. Most husbands probably wouldn't have noticed. After 14 years, I noticed everything. Still, I convinced myself I was overthinking. I ate dinner alone. I cleaned the kitchen. Then something inside me refused to settle. It wasn't suspicion. It was instinct, the same instinct that had protected me throughout my career. Something inside our home felt different. That quiet feeling eventually led me into my home office. Inside the bottom drawer of my desk sat an old folder I hadn't opened in months. At first, everything inside looked ordinary. Bank transfers, receipts, business paperwork, financial records. As I continued turning pages, memories returned. There were records showing money I'd quietly invested into Jamila's marketing business years earlier. Payments helping her mother through difficult times. Emergency expenses I'd never mention again after paying them. I never expected recognition. Helping family wasn't something I believed should earn applause. Then, near the bottom of the folder, I found a bank statement I'd never seen before. The account belonged to my wife. It had been opened 8 months earlier. Balance, $47,000. I stared at the number for what felt like forever. The money itself wasn't what hurt. It was the question that immediately followed. Why didn't I know this account existed? That night, I remained in my office long after midnight. The silence inside the room felt heavier than any argument ever could. For the first time since our wedding day, I wondered if the woman sleeping upstairs was carrying a completely different life behind the smile I'd trusted for 14 years. And without realizing it, I had already taken the first step toward uncovering a truth that would change every relationship inside my family forever.